Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on over to another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. I'm your host, Matt Tardio. It's good to be back, guys. I can't even tell you how long it's been. I think it's like Thursday was the last time I was actually on. And we had an amazing weekend. So before I get into all of that, I'll let you know what's coming up here. We've got drone strikes hitting Moscow. You got like over 170, I think, drones that ended up going over there. Russia ended up shooting a bunch down, but it didn't do them any good. And they are still currently being reported as ongoing, although with kind of how everything's going, we'll see what exactly ended up getting targeted. I know for sure an oil refinery ended up getting hit. Looks like an ammonium nitrate plant over in Kursk ended up getting slammed, and we've got all sorts of other stuff that's going on right now. So what's up, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. It's good to be back from LA. Just to let you guys know, Ethan is 100% in the ground. His family is in some of the best spirits ever. And I've got to give a shout out to Warner Brothers Studios. I'm actually going to do something here a little bit later on to let you guys know. I was pretty shocked to learn some of the stuff that I did over at Warner Brothers, and I'm going to tell you guys all about that here. And I don't know, maybe in a little bit. I want to make sure I can talk to his family and make sure that everything's good to go before I release all that. But ladies and gentlemen, what's up? How are you? It is going to be a lovely day. I am. Look at that. I'm pretty much on time this morning, even though I had some technical difficulties, but we'll get it up and running. So I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are ready for a good show today. And yeah, let's go ahead and kick this little sucker off. Oh, and I want to let you guys know I got Khan's ass back. So this is what's going on. Yeah, I did. So this is what kind of it currently looks like. It's not really anything at all. It's just a graphical representation. This is not necessarily where those drones were launched from, but they ended up going over and slamming into Moscow. I saw something over like 170 in this wave, but just to give you an idea, you're talking about over 500 kilometer distance for these drones like to have traveled in order to slap it. And that is on like the nearest point, if you will, closest to Moscow for them to be launched. Bo Williams coming in, giving out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Appreciate you, Bo. All the massacres, by the way, before we get into this, I just want to let you guys know, all the massacres are still taking place over inside Syria. Ballistic Squeeze says, good morning, brother. Shalom. Coffee on me. Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciate that, because I need to go grocery shopping and get my life in order. Everything else is going on after just returning, but it's good. I got to see some friends while I was out there. I got to make some new friends. Got to learn a lot. And, you know, it's just, I don't know how to say it, guys. It's really, really good to be back. Something else before we get into Moscow as well, just to let you guys know, there's a train over in Pakistan that got, I'm trying to remember the amount of people that was on it. Give me one sec here. It is a buttload, several hundred civilians on this train in Pakistan that ended up getting taken over by these freaking terrorists over there. And they're saying if anybody tries to do a rescue operation that they're gonna end up killing them. This is kind of, I guess, what that looks like as we go over there and take a look at it. I got to put my earphone in. It's been a hot minute. Totally forgot about that. But this is what they're saying it looks like over on the ground, but this is really all the video that's coming out of it. This is the only one that I could actually find of what's going on. So that's going to be developing throughout the day. Hopefully end up not blowing up the bus. If you guys see me go live, it's going to be because there is something freaking wild going on, like sometime before 9. It's going to be because there's something more than likely wild going on with that. Now, Ukraine is sitting down for peace talks right now with the United States, trying to figure out how to make everything happen. But with those peace talks that they're holding down, they're also saying that they haven't forgot about security guarantees, that they're going to make sure that's part of it. So if Ukraine and Russia, this is like huge news. And it blows my mind that a lot of Americans are unaware of this, where you have like literal millions of people that have been hundreds of thousands of people that have been dying over the last several years, well over 1 million when you combine both sides. And there's peace talks going on with it right now, and everything's pretty much quiet in America over that. It's freaking nuts. Texas Actual says Ukraine started negotiations with the U.S. and Saudi in the same time started negotiations with Russia directly in Moscow. Oh, buddy. So I wanted to touch on that, and we'll get into it after I show everything blowing up over there, because there's people that are outraged. There's people that are saying, why the heck is Ukraine striking Moscow at the same time we're looking at trying to do peace talks? Well, it's pretty common sense. War's still ongoing. Nobody trusts Russia, and no peace has been negotiated. And so if no peace has been negotiated and Russia's still inside of Ukraine, why the hell can't Ukraine be bombing Russia? Makes sense to me. I feel like Russia is still currently striking Ukraine inside of Ukraine. So Ukraine can strike Russia inside of Russia, as far as I'm concerned. I could care less. He said Russians are also raging this after the worst Russian soft disaster in history in the pipeline. Oh, you're talking about the ones that I feel like they got gassed or something inside of a pipeline. I feel like I heard something about Russians being trapped inside of a rigged pipeline and their lives just not ending very well. Yeah. Oh man, dude, a lot of freaking hurt feelings right now. A lot of hurt feelings over that one. But is what it is. Stop sneaking through tunnels. It doesn't work out so good for you. Stay out of the sewer systems, freaking rats. Although it is kind of fitting for them, I think, to be running around inside the sewers. So it is what it is. But I mean, at least they didn't have to kill themselves this time, right? At least they didn't have to wash their own teeth out with freaking 7.62. Somebody just, did it for them, and it was probably a little bit more effective. So love to have everybody back in here and getting on that because, the trolls are going to be coming in strong. The trolls are going to be coming in strong. Why are the trolls coming in strong? Because Moscow got its pooper pushed in.
Ух, ебать! Ебать! Блядь, это у нас упало в городе, ебаный в рот.
Yeah, we got footage coming up. I grabbed footage of this. Don't you worry, ladies and gentlemen.
Ебать! Блядь, это у нас упало в городе, ебаный в рот.
Yeah, Moscow, welcome, welcome, welcome. You guys have been striking major cities, including Kyiv and Lviv. I think it's just time that you get a little bit of payback yourself. Here's a little look at some of the aftermath in the morning. Don't worry, I've got some more strikes here in just a sec, but there's a little bit of the aftermath. A bunch of cars set on fire. Now, interesting enough, when you see videos like this, it almost looks like a lot of drones ended up hitting this parking lot, when in reality, it might have just been one. And then what ends up happening is vehicles burn so hot. And I mean, they really burn hot. Like oftentimes you'll see like on vehicle fires, you'll see like literal rims melted down to the ground, depending on what it is, or the wheels like melted down to the ground. But with that being said, those cars get so hot and it just blazes and it just goes up and across. And so everything, if you're in a parking lot like that and vehicles end up going up, there's a high probability that the rest of them around you are going to end up going up as well. Now, grand total as we look at this, and I'm just going to use this one because I don't know. I think it's funny. Times of Israel is reporting on Russia getting schwacked, which I thoroughly love. But what they ended up saying is that Russia is saying that they shot down 337 Ukrainian drones over 10 Russian regions. So while we talk about this being, like Moscow ended up getting hit, no, dude, like this was a massive drone attack all across like Russia over there. Tristan Allen says there is footage from the soft pipeline massacre. They got to the end of the pipeline and met them. Boom. Correct, sir. That does exist. Texas Actual says, yeah, vehicles burn hot. Look at the truck that lasted 2 days on the front I sent you. Yeah, I know, man. I'm going to be honest, Texas, I saw that truck and I didn't want to cry, but it's just frustrating, like I know how much work goes into things like that, but it's a reality of war that, every single thing that you end up doing, I know this, it's just not going to last, or hopefully it does last. And when I don't know. But I know it got put to good use in those 2 days because, yeah. Anyways, so that is ongoing. And like I said, we got the peace talks going on over inside of Saudi Arabia. But I've got a video coming up from some of the negotiators that are over there. And what they're saying is, dude, unless we have security guarantees, it doesn't mean anything. And we've talked about this before. You have to have security guarantees in order to make that happen. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Does it really matter that there are even those peace talks? I think it does. It does matter, and it is a good step to moving forward because the Trump admin needs to actually be able to focus on what it is that Ukraine needs and what Ukraine wants. And in the meantime, that all of that is taking place. Well, here we go. Now, interesting enough, you still have drones flying in the daylight over there. Now, you don't get to hear that one go boom, but what I find absolutely interesting is it's not like these were all just timed out to strike like right around the same time. You still have them. It's almost like there's different waves that were launched going up after Moscow. That's what I would be assuming. Now, people are getting pissed off saying that, a lot of this is Elon Musk's fault and that if it wasn't for Starlink, Ukraine couldn't be doing stuff like this. Ladies and gentlemen, There is so much electronic warfare going on over there, relying solely, and I have to just hit this rumor right off the get-go, relying solely, all right, on the internet to make this happen with that many freaking drones would be a massive mistake. You can't do that. There's got to be backup and redundant systems because all of that jamming is going to end up taking place. So it's not like they just have one system that's over there watching these things go up. It's not how it works. Let me get some more of these drone strikes up on the screen for you. Now, I believe that one is of the angle that we were looking at from earlier that goes down, and there is a lot of them, you guys. So be prepared, strap in, because we're just going to watch stuff blow up for a sec. Good morning, Russia. How are you? They got woke up this morning, and I think they're not very happy at all. This one is the one that I was looking at earlier. This is the one I wanted to show you guys. This is the nice one. This is fun. So I'm pretty sure that's the one that got captured on kind of like both sides of the freaking building, to where we were just looking at the other side in the video prior. And then this is like the flip side of that one where it ends up whacking it down on top. 21st century is a little bit wild because we have so many of these videos that just continue to come out. And I mean, anytime something like this goes on, it's almost like we can instantly see it. Lady Tiger Official, welcome to Becoming a True Supporter. Texas Actual says Russia claims all drones were intercepted while the videos are going around of the impacts, but they successfully shot them down. Yeah. Russians' buildings are interceptors, and that's the thing about freaking Russian propaganda is they will say stuff like that, and they'll try to convince people that's exactly what happened, and it absolutely didn't. It's kind of sad the way it goes, especially when their civilians or their citizens are the ones out there like impacting some of these. It's just collateral damage is what ends up happening. And Russia wants to sit there and deny it. It's kind of on them. I think people are a little bit pissed off. I got a video from inside of somebody's apartment here in just a sec. And what they're trying to say is that that Ukraine was launching drones, and they intended them just solely as civilian targets. So that's not necessarily true. Russian oil refinery, I told you guys, that ended up getting taken out. This is the one right here that ended up getting impacted. A lot of the information ended up getting put on it. You can see where it ended up going down right there. I'm not even going to bother reading. Strategic targets of the Russian occupiers were hit Moscow oil refinery, and the refinery produces 11 million tons of oil a year and meets 40 to 50% of Moscow's diesel and petrol needs. So if you're asking, what was Ukraine up to and why were they doing that? This is what they were up to. This is why they were doing it. When you want to attack a larger force, when you want to go after them, you go after their supply lines. Clearly, 11 million tons of oil a year, that is a lot. That is a buttload, and that's going to have a significant impact, very significant impact on the force. And if they can't move, they can't fight. And that includes logistics going in and out of the occupied areas of Ukraine. That includes moving troops up to the front line. That puts a strain on the people. That puts a strain on everything. So it's one hell of a hit that they ended up going in, getting done. I absolutely kind of like love that personally. Because it is a legitimate military target. It's a legitimate military target. And unfortunately, Ukraine's using drones to get this done. I would like to see some, long-range cruise missiles, shit like that involved, like all sorts of other things that they should be having in order to get it done. But unfortunately, that's just kind of not what ended up happening. Here's a couple still shots coming at you from across Moscow. Apartment buildings, correct. Yeah, and so what happens when you launch a large drone wave and it's flying up over is, number one, you have to understand that Ukraine also has intelligence. All right. And if these people that are over here are military members, et cetera, that live in these apartments, that if they are assholes that are involved in invading Ukraine, if they're assholes that were involved in murdering civilians in Bucha, if they're buttheads that were involved in murdering civilians in Mariupol, if they're buttheads that were involved in any of that stuff, well, guess what? Ukraine's going to target them. And I don't blame them for doing it. And I hope they did it whether they were at home and they were sleeping. Like, seriously. And so you have to look at this from a different perspective, ladies and gentlemen. You can't just look at this and say, oh, this got hit and this got hit. These are precision guided munitions, whether you like to say that or not. And so there is localized damage to specific buildings, but not like massive damage to these buildings. Texas Actual says, did you see the magnesium warehouse getting some? I didn't see the magnesium warehouse. I saw an ammonium nitrate plant that ended up getting blasted. I haven't seen the magnesium warehouse yet. If you send that to me, Texas, we'll put that up on the screen here in a little bit. Make sure that hits. But yeah, so, I mean, you got to understand like the amount of war crimes and stuff that Russia has been involved in across Ukraine and some of the people that were absolutely involved in those war crimes. And if Ukrainian intelligence has a fix on their location and they're able to take them out, then they're going to do so. And I don't blame them one bit. And I don't think any civilized human being that's actually seen those would blame Ukraine for taking them out. I mean, we're talking, I went back, I think it was a little over like a year and a half ago. I had documented like an actual torture location that was over inside of Zaporizhia, and it had some of the most messed up stuff. I'll have to go back and find the video and maybe bring that up again to remind people of some of the sick, disgusting things that Russia was doing. And this is as Ukraine was pushing down on their massive counteroffensive, and they were pushing Russia out of these occupied areas of Ukraine. And you ended up having like actual torture locations that they ended up having set up. And some of the most disgusting things ever actually ended up coming out of that. It was so much that like I ended up having to blur a ton of it out when I was making the videos, and there was a bunch of stuff that I couldn't show from those different torture sites, but it's really troubling. We've seen that video already. There's another angle for you. Let me get that one up nice and big. But yeah, I mean, you just don't get to go around, torturing people and get away with it. It's not how it's going to work. Oh, he's upset. Well, that's pretty interesting. Texas, what he just said, rumor is, hold on, I want a nice freeze frame of like this sucker striking. Let's go right there. So Texas says, rumors are that the UK and the French intel to Ukraine gave Ukraine a massive list of new targets that the US was avoiding giving to Ukraine. We just took the gloves off. Also video in XDM. Thanks, Texas. Greatly appreciate that. So that's the deal, right? You've got all of this crap that's going on up over there. Now, along with that, as people are beginning to look at this, you got to also understand that some of these drones very well could have been damaged by Russian defense systems, and those defense systems that damage those drones doesn't mean that the drones aren't flying anymore. It just simply means that you could be knocking out guidance packages, or maybe they did actually strike them and that they end up going down and impacting over inside of Moscow at these random locations. So it's pretty much impossible to tell which is true out of all those different things, whether or not it is, the drones ended up getting hit or they were legitimate military targets inside of these apartment complexes or some of these other locations that Ukraine was going after. But it's certainly, I don't know, certainly pretty cool. I'm seeing numbers that say over 70 drones out of that entire wave were shot down around Moscow. But there's your parking lot fire that I told you guys about. So when you see stuff like this, it makes it really kind of obvious how you get some of those like massive burn parking lots like that. A lot of people don't realize how much fuel is actually inside of a freaking vehicle. I mean, they do, but they don't really think about it. And that fuel, along with all of the oil and crap like that ends up combining, I mean, those things go up like a freaking blaze of glory. And they are one of the biggest pains in the butts to put out. If you don't believe me, talk to any of your firefighters, and they're going to let you know that like vehicle fires suck. Tristan Allen coming in saying FAFO. Greatly appreciate you, brother. You know, and you see things like this where it's like a neighborhood that ends up getting targeted, and then you got to ask, why did that drone, let's say it impacted a building? It's impossible to tell from this video, but let's say that drone did in fact impact one of those residential structures. The question is who lived in that residential structure? And, you know, what were they responsible for inside of, you know, the Russian military, Russian intelligence, Russian government, things of that nature? Because if, like I said, if they were involved in some of those other things that were taking place, yeah, civilian casualties are collateral damage, if you will, is slightly authorized. And depending on what they did, it kind of determines how much. Now, I just showed you guys that massive vehicle fire that was taking place before that drone strike. It's kind of like the aftermath of it. And we showed this a little bit earlier, so you guys are kind of able to see some of that taking place. But it's freaking nuts. I'm like, hats off to Ukraine for pulling this off, particularly having balls, you know, like over here during the ceasefire portion of it. Now let's go inside a Russian's apartment complex and see what they're whining and complaining about. Let's get this up. Incog Faraday ends up coming up, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Greatly appreciate you. Now, this isn't necessarily graphic. This is just immediately following the drone strike. So slight warning over inside. Russians love walking around in underwear inside their own homes. So it's just is what it is. It's a man in his underwear.
Да, сейчас, давай, может убрать это все, не трогай пока. А? Ну вот это, да, Хиросима. Плафон ухана ушел.
Now, what is it that they're complaining about, like over inside that? So what they're trying to claim, and I believe I have a still shot of it coming up here in just a sec. What they are trying to claim is that Ukraine was had these little ball bearings. I had a picture of it. I don't know what ended up happening to it, but they were trying to claim that Ukraine was using ball bearings in these drones, almost like how do you want to say it? Almost like a Claymore mine, right? Like how a Claymore's got like the little ball bearings in it, and then you've got the explosives behind it. It blasts. If you guys didn't know, that's what's so cool about a Claymore. It's got a bunch of ball bearings basically inside of it. When it blasts, it just sends those suckers out flying. And there's a picture of some dude holding a freaking ball bearing, and they're trying to claim that Ukraine was putting those in a drone. Just FYI, that's probably one of the dumbest things to do inside of a drone. That's not a good use of ball bearings at this particular time, because all of that forward momentum plus the explosion, and it ends up impacting. That's not really what those are designed for. That's not really how that works. So I have no doubt that there was ball bearings that were involved in those drones, but they were likely part of, I don't know, the construction of the drone, for crying out loud. Yeah, you need things like that. And, you know, to pack a drone with explosives and ball bearings, and it's just, it doesn't make any sense. It's just not a good use of anything whatsoever. Did you hear of the mother of a dead Russian soldier receiving a meat grinder for Women's Day? I did not. But I'll tell you what I did see this last weekend, which I absolutely love. And I wish I could take this picture and put it up on the screen right now, but I'm not, because I didn't ask to do it beforehand. So I'm just going to describe to you what this photograph was. And it was off the front line over inside of Ukraine. And it was, number one, Russia is now back to using aluminum drones, like a lot of aluminum drones, which means that they are pretty short on supplies. Aluminum's a little bit cheaper than, fiberglass, right? So they're over there and they're using aluminum drones up along the front line. But even more so than that, what I found very, very interesting was one of these drones, and several of them actually, that I'm now seeing coming across, have, how do I want to say this? They have, for ammunition, they are carrying plastic water bottles with fuse that should not be involved in it. And on top of all of that, what it looks like is the explosive that they have put inside of the water bottle, they are repurposing AT mines. So they're taking the explosives out of the AT mines, they're melting them down and putting them inside these water bottles, because they're running really, really short on supplies. It's very interesting to me when you see things like that taking place on the front lines, because what it's showing is that it's showing that those troops, those Russian troops on the front lines, are not getting good resupply. So while we might be hearing all sorts of rumors about, like Ukraine's screwed, Ukraine's running low on munitions, Ukraine's, short on all of these things, you also have to understand that, one, they're still pulling off massive attacks like this. Drones is kind of like the new forward momentum that Ukraine's been pushing for a long time. And they're doing it with pretty dang good effects. But on the flip side, you also have Russia, that is in the Russian troops on the front lines, that are being forced to do things like that. I mean, we're talking straight improvised munitions on their crap drones. Texas says, Matt, even the Russian FPV drones are aluminum versus Ukrainian carbon fiber. Have one sitting here that was shot down a few days ago by my friend. Look at that. Texas, did I even talk to you about that? I don't think I did. I don't even think I talked to Texas about that. And so there you go. So there's multiple sources of information letting you guys know that that's actually the case of what's happening. And Texas, if you can confirm what I just said also, whether or not you know this to be true, but I got asked specifically to take a look at something over the weekend, and that's what it is. They are literally taking AT mines, breaking them apart, and then trying to repurpose the explosives inside, but they don't even have like good containers for that crap. And so they have crap aluminum drones that they're using, crap fuses that they're putting inside, in order to arm these dang things. And then on top of all of that, they're doing a really shit job. I mean, they're putting it in plastic bottles, they're repurposing the explosives, they're using crap drones, and it seems like they're just doing their absolute best to keep things up and moving. Now, Ukraine moving forward on their peace talks over inside of Saudi Arabia, right? The security guarantees are one of the things, right? So Zelensky's chief of staff is over inside of Saudi Arabia right now. Let me get this up on the screen for you. Zelensky's chief of staff is over inside Saudi Arabia right now. And when he was being interviewed about these different peace talks and what they're moving forward and what they're willing to do, yeah, absolutely, Ukraine wants peace. Absolutely, Ukraine's willing to figure out something solid. But what Ukraine cannot do, and this is something that I hope the Trump administration is actually listening to, what Ukraine cannot do is have these peace talks without security guarantees. They have to have them. Russia cannot be trusted. Russia, number one, violated the Budapest Memorandum multiple times. They went inside Crimea and they lied about going inside of Crimea. When they went inside the DPR and the LPR, they lied about being inside the DPR and LPR. They shot down a commercial airliner, for crying out loud, over at the, I'm trying to remember the name of it. But you had Russian Spetsnaz that were like running around, the east for such a very long time, and Russia's denying it, even as we're tracking them going across the east by their own photographs that they're posting online. This is pre-2022, post-2014. So we're tracking all of these Russian troops over inside of the east. The Donetsk airport was pretty much, 80% Russian Spetsnaz. Like the battle for the Donetsk airport, pretty much 80% Russian Spetsnaz were involved in that. MH17, thank you guys. And so Ukraine's looking at this and they're saying, okay, this is all great doing these peace talks and peace negotiations, but what is to keep Russia at bay? And that is a fair, honest question that Ukraine's asking. What is going to keep these people at bay? Because if they have violated it before, they invaded Crimea, which a lot of people don't even know about. Go look up Little Green Men Crimea. Just Google it real quick. It's freaking ridiculous. It was so ridiculous at the time that there's actually videos of Ukrainian soldiers, and we can go find that if you want, that literally walked up to the front with white flags asking, what the hell's going on? Who the hell are you people? Like, just to see what's going on, to like talk. Ukraine didn't want to go to war. And so then that evolves, and then you end up having everything going on in the east, and then you have this full-blown invasion where you literally have airplanes of paratroopers being shot out of the damn sky over Ukraine. It looked like World War II all the way back in 2022. And so Ukraine's got serious concerns. Multiple times the Budapest Memorandum was violated in Crimea, in the east, and then also in 2022 when you ended up having the full-blown invasion that led us to where we're at today. And so Ukraine, by asking for security guarantees, is asking a very, very serious freaking question, which is, what the hell is the world going to do about it if this ends up happening again? And truthfully, the United States, if we're going to sign like our mineral deal or anything like that with Ukraine, if we're going to have that, then we also need to make sure that our freaking investment is protected. It makes common damn sense. It really does. And it doesn't have to just be the United States of America. The EU can be involved in this. We can have other nations that can be involved in making sure that this is taking place. It doesn't necessarily have to mean U.S. boots on the ground. There's lots of different things that we can do in order to ensure that that happens. You know, a lot of people are looking at that and saying, okay, that means U.S. boots on the ground. No, it necessarily does not. And it doesn't necessarily mean EU troops on the ground. But what it does mean is a check and balance to keep Russia in place. That's what it means. And that's what they need to have is if this, then what? Because the Budapest Memorandum isn't it. It's really not. And so all of this is currently taking place over there right now. I mean, they're sitting down. The United States reportedly was a little bit late to the meeting, but it's currently underway, at least from what I understand. So U.S. was a little bit late, but the meeting is currently underway. So all of that's going on over there, and we're going to end up seeing what ends up coming out on the backside of this. I truthfully couldn't tell you what's going to end up coming out on the backside. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot, and not to be a dick about it, but I have a feeling it's going to be a lot like the the negotiations that we're seeing over inside of Gaza, where you have like the U.S. is negotiating on behalf, trying to figure all this stuff out, and you have all these other nations are involved, and you hear, yes, we're making great progress, we're going to be doing good things, and all of this is going to go well, but in reality, it's not. It's not. I think that there's going to be a lot of learning taking place with the United States and with the Ukrainians in the upcoming days. I don't think the Biden administration had real talks about any of this crap, and I don't think the Trump administration has either. So this is the first time, in my opinion, that everybody is sitting down trying to come to the table on all of this. Here's what's his name? Don Bacon.
I've been to Poland twice now. There's very few countries that are more pro-American than Poland. Maybe the Baltics are right in there as well. They want our presence, and they also know that the fall of Ukraine would be devastating to their national security, not only Poland, but the Baltic countries. And I thought, why is a White House official that's not even elected, it's not the president or the vice president, why is that person belittling the Polish foreign minister? It's not appropriate. It's not right. We need more discipline in the White House. Now, Poland's our friend. If you got heartburn with them, get them on the phone and talk to them. But stop the public bashing of our friends in a world that's where we have real threats out there with China, Russia, and Iran. So I didn't like what I saw. I thought we could be better.
Congressman Don Bacon, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your time and your perspective on the news of the day. We appreciate it.
So I don't think Don Bacon's necessarily wrong there. Texas Actual says, let's say one of 3 Russian FPV drones actually work, 100% true, but they're adopting with fiber optic ones. We've already working on the fix for that too. Sent you a photo of the Russian FPV I have here on X. That's actually pretty amazing. So let's go ahead and get that up on the screen while we're doing it. Yeah, I've heard about the fiber optics that they're using over there, and it's kind of annoying that is exactly what they're doing. Let's see here. There we go. Appreciate that. So this is what Texas Gents sent to me. You can see like their little POS freaking drones that they're actually using and sending forward. Now, what kind of pisses me off about all of this is people are looking at this and they're like, oh, nope, Russia's got great supplies. They have everything. They've outgunned Ukraine. And this is where guys like JD Vance, in my opinion, just kind of need to back off, and they need to do a little bit more research. They need to actually pay attention to what it is, because if they were actual war fighters and they actually knew how wars were fought, not just, cameramen, I've said it before. If I want advice on how to get my camera to autofocus on things that I have, great, then I'll use, JD Vance, right? If I want to take this piece of destroyed if I want to show you guys, if I want to show you guys this piece of destroyed Russian frickin', equipment that was recovered out of Hostomel, and so it can like zoom in on it, right? Like piece of shit Russian like artillery. Hey, I will call JD Vance. That's what I will do. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call JD Vance for that. But if I actually want to know about warfighting and what that means and how to go about doing it, JD Vance is not necessarily the guy that I want, doing that. He's just not. I would be like, yo, where are my advisors? Let's take care of that. He took pictures of it. I don't know what you guys talking about. Yeah. So here's your POS Russian drone. All right. Aluminum freaking frame, really crap construction, very basic. You can take a look at some of the stuff that they're using. While they are using them great, but it's not exactly the best equipment that's out there. And when I talk about the different explosives and stuff like that were being used on those drones, well, that will tell you that they are garbage. All right, that they are running out of things. They are literally taking those mines pulling the explosives out and repurposing them inside of plastic bottles, attaching them to those drones, trying to make all that stuff happen. It's freaking sad. And I, in my opinion, a lot of it has to do with, I don't want to say this, a lot of it has to do with propaganda, right? Propaganda, false information, or people that are in official capacities that are speaking that don't necessarily know what the hell they're talking about. And it's really frustrating. You know, it's frustrating as somebody that actually does know what they're talking about. And you have people like myself, you have lots of other people that actually have this knowledge. And yet the United States government and other foreign militaries, other foreign freaking country leaders, they're all listening to that same damn narrative. Texas also sent this one. Texas, remind me again what this plant was that ended up getting hit. I'll take a look here in a sec. Oh, that's a good one. What is that, thermite? Let me, no. Is that a white phosphorus? Is that, what is that? What plant is that? Magnesium warehouse. Yeah, that's freaking huge. Magnesium is one hell of a precursor that you can use in all sorts of different explosives and everything else. Yeah. Let's just say the least, magnesium. Thanks, guys. Let's just say the least that a lot of the information that's going out on this war, just like all of the other ones, is false. There is a lot of crap intel that's floating around on this war. There's a lot of crap intel that's floating around in the war inside of Israel. There's a lot of crap intel that's floating around inside of the U.S. just in general. And I almost want to blame our own government for not taking control of that narrative and pushing out actual facts. Like taking things like I have just shown you on this, and when people bring that type of stuff up, being like, no, that's not necessarily true. Look, here is this, right? Here is this evidence. Here are these facts, and actually blasting it out there, but they won't do it. And for the life of me, I couldn't tell you why. This is too long of a clip. I love this lady. She is freaking awesome. It's a 15-minute clip, and I feel like it's going to push a little bit too deep and too far into it, so I'm not going to do it. What I do want to do is kind of shift your guys' focus for a hot second. I want to go over and I want to talk to you guys about Syria. I want to talk to you guys about what's taking place over inside of Israel right now, and I want to touch on what's going on with Hezbollah and HTS and all of those other freaking nut jobs, because there has been a quite literal genocide has opened up. Now, a couple months ago, I ended up telling you guys that, look, when Jelani came in and he took over Syria, that's not a good thing. All right. That him and al-Baghdadi. So for those that don't know, let me open this up for a second. I got to sit up and talk to you guys. All right. Let me sit up and talk to you guys. So if you guys are just now joining the channel, if you're just new to the feed, make sure that you are subscribing to the channel. I am not going to say everything that you are going to agree with. All right. But what I am going to do is, one, give you guys facts, and then I'm going to I want you to not trust everything I'm telling you. I want you to do your own due diligence with the facts that I am presenting, and I want you to verify them, and then I want you to develop your own opinion. All right, so I want you to take the data that's presented to you, I want you to do your own research, and then I want you to come up with your own opinion. I am trying to build a community of critical thinkers here, because mainstream media sucks. They suck bad. I can sit here and I can crap on JD Vance and Donald Trump, then I can turn around and give them praise for certain things. I can sit here and I can crap on Joe Biden. And I think maybe once I gave Joe Biden a little bit of praise for something that he did, but it's few and far between when I end up doing it for him, because he doesn't have a lot. All right. But on top of that, we also have an amazing community over here. All right. We have an absolute amazing community. For those of you guys that don't know, we raised a little over 20 grand for a gentleman named Ethan Hertwick that was killed over inside of Ukraine. He was a former U.S. Marine that went over to Ukraine to fight, got killed on the front lines. Russia held on to his body. They ended up sending his body back to Ukraine back in December. Yeah, so December of 24, they did a body exchange. Ukraine got over 500 or around 500 bodies back. Ethan's family submitted DNA, and they were able to figure out, that Ethan was in fact one of those that was KIA. So we raised money to get him buried here in the United States of America because his family couldn't afford it. And let me tell you guys, while we're having that discussion, his family is so dang thankful for you. I talked to Ethan's dad for probably about an hour straight Sunday morning, about an hour straight. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, that's some really powerful stuff. Sitting there, looking at him in the eyes and just having those discussions with him and how thankful they are, guys. I cannot express to you the impact on that family that you had. What y'all have done and the impact on that family. I can tell you that out of the entire freaking war, if there's something that we actually did for the better, it was that. I watched that family go from Sunday morning of being completely and totally distraught on Sunday morning to at the end of the day, just having an absolute freaking, like, they were smiling again, ladies and gentlemen. You gave them hope. That's what you did. So for everybody that donated, you gave them hope. That's what I'm going to say. You guys, you gave them hope. That's exactly what you did. You gave that family hope, and you made them feel loved. You made them feel appreciated. And I want to give a special shout out to Warner Bros. for also hooking that family up. So I am going to end up posting on this a little bit later. If you guys aren't following me over on Twitter or over on X, it's down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen as you're staring at me right now. Go follow me over there because we also hooked them up. I called a man that works for Warner Brothers. I'm going to end up giving him credit over here. And I'll tell you, man, I was not aware, and I'm going to share some of these photographs and some of these pictures and everything else. I was not aware of how supportive to veterans and the military that Warner Brothers Studios actually is. So I got to give him a little bit of credit here. Edward Slowski. I probably pronounced his name wrong. I'm sorry if I did that, man, but that's off the top of my head with your last name and making sure I present it right. But he's a little bit upper level over there at Warner Bros. And I called him. And I want you guys to hear this, all right? I called him the day that I was putting all of this together. And I said, hey, man, family's coming into town. I told him Ethan's story. He was tracking it. I said, family's coming into town. Can we do something for them? What can we do? Like, what can we do? Warner Brothers hooked his family up with the VIP of the VIP tours that they have for Warner Brothers Studios. And when I say the VIP of the VIP tours, I mean the VIP of the VIP tours. It was literally the best thing that they do. The best thing that they do. And they gave us the best tour guide. They ended up having their own private golf cart and showing them around Warner Brothers Studios. And they opened up literally the doors that the family wanted to see. Literally the doors that the family wanted to see. And I didn't think to myself, right, when this was happening. And we had the best tour guide as well. Like literally the best tour guide that they had to offer. This guy was like drinking from a freaking fire hose as we were going around, like showing off everything. And I mean everything. They went inside the prop freaking built, like, dude, when I mean everything, I mean everything. We were rolling around inside of Jennifer Hudson's set. I mean, like, we were doing whatever the hell we wanted. It was freaking great. But also what I noticed up over at Warner Bros. Was that they also have, and I'm going to post on it, I'm like, why do you guys not share this information, man? Like, I got to give a shout out to Warner Brothers Studios. They have a massive World War II memorial wall that they built all the way back in the 40s. I believe it was the 40s or 50s. I think it was the 40s. They built this massive World War II memorial wall. And it's got the name of every single Warner Brothers employee that fought during World War II. And there's a couple gold stars that are on there as well. But they also have another one. They also have another freaking memorial that's built inside of there for current members of the armed forces. And all of this is in between where some of their major studios are at and where, you know, employees and actors and everybody goes walks to get lunch and everything else. It's like a nice little quiet, peaceful area. But additionally, they also have a chunk of the Berlin Wall that's propped up right along this walkway of all of these memorials. They have a giant chunk of the Berlin Wall. And they took it and they put it up because it has to do with, you know, holding back freedom of thoughts, freedom of expression, and all of those other things. And it really starts to make sense when you think about it, that that's what they're doing. And the guy that was showing us around, we were scheduled for a 1-hour private tour. When I say that Warner Brothers opened up the freaking door, I mean, they opened up the door. This was like their guy. This was like their best freaking tour guide. And he also, to tell you guys, it was a 1-hour tour. We started at around 11:30 a.m. local. It was scheduled for 1 hour. This guy stayed with us until 1:20. He had a meeting at 1:30 he had to make it to. And this guy was like, nope, I'm staying on longer. I'm staying. Like, he just stayed and hooked it up with like everything. I mean, everything. And then Ed was showing us around, and he wouldn't let the family didn't pay for it. Like, they did not let the family pay for a dang thing. They hooked him up inside of the gift shop. They hooked him up everywhere. When I tell you guys that, like, what this channel did for this family is absolutely phenomenal, and none of that could have been accomplished without you guys. And it was such like an amazing thing to see. That's why I've been quiet over the last 4 days. I was going out doing that, and I didn't tell the family. And originally, I wasn't going to. I just wanted it to be like a family healing time. Warner Brothers Studios, right? Universal, one and the same, but no, it was Warner Brothers Studios. You have Warner Brothers, which is like the movie history and inside everything. And you get like on this particular one, you get to go see the different stage sets. Like he was showing where Jurassic Park was filmed, where Pee Wee Herman and like all of these other freaking wild things, Gilmore Girls and freaking dude, like the steps for Batman, and it's just all sorts of wild stuff. Universal Studios more or less like the ride aspect of it, like theme park type deal, but that's Warner Brothers Studios. And so they literally opened up the door for everybody. It was nuts to see that amount of love come out from there and doing it behind the scenes. I believe that you have to elevate good people. I believe that you have to elevate good organizations. And that to me was a very good organization and a very good thing to level up. Now, I say all that because it meant a lot to the family. I literally watched people smile. I did. I got his name right. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate you, brother. Oh man, he's on an airplane. He just texted me. That's amazing. Thank you for letting me get that name right. But good people need elevated in life, and good organizations need elevated. And that to me is one of those that just absolutely needs to be elevated. Now, we're going to shift focus. All right, we're going to shift focus and we're going to go over and we're going to talk about Syria for a minute. I gave you guys the background long version a while ago on HTS leader al-Jawlani. U.S. had a $10 million bounty on his head at one point in time. Biden administration ended up removing it. Jawlani and al-Baghdadi used to be buddies. If you guys don't know who al-Baghdadi is, al-Baghdadi was the founder of ISIS, like the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or you've heard Obama call him ISIL, the Islamic State of Iraq, the Levant. All it really means is that they wanted a Sunni Islamic caliphate, essentially taking Sharia law and blasting it across the entire region. And you had callings from all around the world. You had people showing up from the United States. You had people from everywhere. When I was fighting ISIS, we had no BS, no less than 6 languages coming across the radio on their side. How do I know there were 6 languages coming across the radio? Because we kill them and take their radios, and we also have technology that allows us to listen to them. Those people will pour in from around the world. And right now, over inside of Syria, you have massive amounts of ethnic cleansing that's taking place. There's video after, and not a single one of them I can show on this screen. Not a single one I can show on the screen, but go take a look at it. They are knocking people off left and right. They have just started executing and murdering them down to the point where Jawlani is how do I want to say this? I heard that there was an order or rumor that got put out for them to stop posting those videos. Bo Williams says, off topic, did China really take all Islam items down and name it a mental illness? I heard that, but I haven't looked into it yet, Bo. I did hear that too. I did hear that. But this is what's currently taking place over inside of Syria. There's supposedly UN inspectors are going to be on their way to like go validate all of these claims of everything that's taking place. But the deal is how we had this massive influx of ISIS fighters that were coming from around the world to go join ISIS. If this doesn't get solved, it's going to be the same exact thing, because there's going to be, I promise you, there's going to be either like it's going to start off back channel calling for a new Islamic caliphate over inside of Syria, right? That was Jawlani's stated goal when he founded the al-Nusra Front after al-Qaeda in Iraq ended up getting freaking the axe from al-Qaeda. Those of you that don't know, al-Baghdadi, the founder of ISIS, was like also leading AQI or al-Qaeda in Iraq. And because that they were going around and schwacking all the freaking Shiite Muslims over inside of Iraq at the time, Osama bin Laden actually told him that he needed to chill out and stop doing all that crap, stop all of this freaking sectarian violence, and start bringing it together. Even Osama bin Laden said that Jawlani was too evil, and he cut him off because he wouldn't stop doing it. So, or not Jawlani, excuse me, Baghdadi was too evil. So he cut off AQI from actually being affiliated with al-Qaeda. That's how ISIS ended up coming to be. A lot of people will tell you that the United States of America founded ISIS and everything else. That's all a bunch of BS. Baghdadi fled into Syria after that, and he stood up ISIS. And then they went and they started riding on Iraq, and then the U.S. comes in and starts taking care of it. Patrick Loudon says, do you have any info on Jelani cutting deals with the Kurds and the Druze yesterday? No, I don't. I'm still getting my butt back in the saddle. I will do that, and I should have some of that information here for you by this evening. But also over there inside of Syria, you have, all right, Hezbollah that's currently going after Jelani's forces. And to me, this is essentially like, I don't know, if there was present day, I don't know. But it's like two of our enemies are fighting each other. I think it's a good thing. Now, this is just like one of the many videos that is coming out from over in southern Syria. The one that I kind of like about this, if I go back towards the beginning of it, this guy that's standing over here behind him, wait for it. Look, he's literally getting like videos for the gram, pictures for the gram. It might be kind of hard for you guys to see. Maybe I need to come over and like draw this down a little bit. But he's literally getting freaking pictures for the gram. And that's what he's doing here. Let me move this down a little bit. There you go. Yeah, now you can see it a little bit better. There you go. He's literally like photographing this dude, taking videos of him, pictures for the gram. This is, in my opinion, kind of, it is what it is. This is our two enemies fighting and killing each other. Now, Israel ended up going into southern Syria. They crossed the border. Let me get this up on a map for you guys. Israel ended up going into southern Syria in order to protect the Druze. The Druze wanted to take care of themselves. They didn't want anything bad to happen. It's just is what it is, right? And so they ended up like rising up and going after him. Come on, that's not what I said. And let me explain this, because there is a lot of misinformation that's going around about this particular portion of what Israel is doing and why they're doing it. And it makes a little bit more sense when you understand what Jelani is doing, and people, I guess they don't get it. So let's take this up and put it up on the map to try to explain this to you guys. So you had Israel that ended up, I think it was a couple of weeks ago now, ended up pushing into southern Syria. And if you look at the borders of where everybody's at, here you have Syria, right? Or I'm sorry, here you have Israel right down over here. Now, Israel is currently stacked up, just to give you an idea, it's rumored that they have right around 40,000 troops that are currently stacked up around Gaza, getting ready to go in. And that is just about to get freaking slaughtered. They're also doing ongoing operations over inside of Judea and Samaria. But here we have the Golan Heights, all right? Like over here outside of Syria. And a lot of the people that live up in here, these are your like Druze, right? And they, over inside of southern Syria, do not want to deal with Jelani. He is a freaking madman, and so are all of his people. Israel saw this stuff coming from a mile away, and a couple of weeks ago ended up going into southern Syria. So when we're talking about the fighting that's taking place in between Hezbollah and Jelani's men, all of that's taking, over here by the border, like all of this region. Well, Israel is said to be able to push up as far south as Damascus in order to start protecting some of these people in the south because of all the ethnic cleansing that was just bound to come, right? Because he wanted a Sunni Islamic caliphate. So that's where he's at. That's where Israel's at, all the way down there in the south. A lot of this ethnic cleansing is taking place all across Syria. I mean, I've seen videos coming out of pretty much everywhere. They're going to be going after the Kurds. I heard that they are teaming up with ISIS. And when people are asking, well, why would they team up with ISIS? Why would they be going after these guys? Why would they allowing them out? Because they share the exact same ideology. That's why they're doing that. And so that's why Israel's down there in the south, and that's why they're up to what they're doing. For some reason, our country has decided that all of this needs to be, partisan politics, that all of this needs to be politically divided when it comes across. Like if you support Ukraine, well, you can't possibly support Israel. How can you possibly support the two? And it's because of common sense, right? When you look at what's actually taking place and going on, you can use common sense and you can support both sides, which is why I pretty much gave up any political affiliation I have whatsoever, because I'm tired of the political divide inside of this country. But there's one thing that is absolutely certain, is that if you are supporting Hamas, if you're supporting people like Jelani, if you're supporting people like Hezbollah, then you're supporting terrorism. And it's appalling to me as somebody that spent such a large portion of his life fighting the global war on terror, shooting assholes like ISIS in the face, to come back here to the United States of America and then have people all around the country rioting, protesting at places like Columbia University, UCLA, down here in Texas. Dude, all around last year, they were rioting like it's going out of style. And right now, Israel is about to be going back into Gaza to start crushing Hamas. And there's political people that are sitting around trying to say that, hey, look, there's a peaceful way to do this. No, there's not. And there's idiots on both sides of the house. And I can go deeper into that here in a little bit later. But I will tell you one thing the Trump administration is getting right. While they might be screwing up Ukraine, I will tell you the one thing that the Trump administration is getting right is everything that's taking place like here at home when it goes to these Palestinian protesters. Check this out. You got to love this. So Trump ended up putting this out. Let me get this up on your screen. Boom. Following my previously signed executive orders, ICE proudly apprehended and detained Mohammed Khalil, a radical foreign pro-Hamas student on campus of Columbia University. This is the first arrest of many to come. We know there are more students at Columbia and other universities across the country who have engaged in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activities, and the Trump administration will not tolerate it. Many are not students. They are paid agitators. Believe it or not, that's true. Go look it up. We will find, apprehend, and deport these terrorist sympathizers from our country, never to return again. If you support terrorism, including the slaughtering of innocent men, women, and children, your presence is contrary to our national and foreign policy interests, and you are not welcome here. We expect every one of America's colleges and universities to comply. Now, who is this piece of crap? There he is. He's up on your screen. They went out and they freaking apprehended him on Sunday, and they picked him up and they pulled him out. He was no longer a student. He actually, I believe he had graduated, but he was on a permanent green card or visa over here to the United States of America. And they still took his butt and freaking reversed it because he was responsible for organizing a lot of those protests. So it's a very good thing that they ended up getting him, but people are pissed off about it. But I want to remind you that this, ladies and gentlemen, that this is the type of crap that was being supported by them. All right. And all of this was happening over last summer after an American hostage was executed inside of Gaza. And I want you to go all the way back to 9/11 in 2001 and everything that took place following that, where we were having Americans get killed, not just on the U.S., but also abroad. Okay. And we had lots of like U.S. citizens getting taken hostage and shit like that was happening all the way back then. And a lot of people don't even know that. Now, those people that are over here supporting terrorism, they are directly rallying, whether they know it or not, which I think is a huge problem when it comes to misinformation and propaganda and everything else. And they're supporting Palestine because there's a genocide. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. But there's a lot of agitators that are in that crowd that absolutely do. And those people that are supporting this freaking violent rhetoric that actually are calling, whether they believe it or not, when you say from the river to the sea, you're chanting for genocide, those people that are doing that stuff are directly supporting Hamas. And what's really bad is people view this as a battle of physical terrain. It's not. It's a battle of human terrain. And so when we see things like this taking place here in the United States of America, you have to understand that this is the battle for human terrain. This is actually changing minds. That's what they're going after. Because if they can, discourse, sow discourse here in the United States of America to where people are fighting back and forth and people are doing this type of crap and they lose public support, then they can win. But they'll never win in a toe-to-toe match. They're just going to get taken out, period, as long as politicians stay the hell out of the way. So these people, right, are that are out here doing this, a lot of them, a vast majority of them, were falsely influenced by guys like the one that's being deported. And so if you are upset that that guy is getting deported, that he's getting kicked out of this country, I highly encourage you to look up all of the things that I just told you about who you're actually supporting and what it is that's actually going on. It's disgusting. It hurts me down in my stomach. It hurts me down in my soul for people to actually think that this is a non-issue or that Trump shouldn't be deporting people because of who they support. It's absolutely disgusting. Last clip that I have for you guys, we're going to put it up here and then we're going to talk about it because I heard some of this stuff coming up and I wasn't even a fan of it.
Under U.S. law for if the Secretary of State has any reasonable ground to believe he would have a potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequence. And you mentioned the student organization. The student organization put out... Let me finish.
But before you move on, because I think that's a really important point, right? That's the statute that they're using.
Yeah.
Have you seen any evidence to suggest that there is actually a serious reason to believe that this student is going to be a threat to to national security.
I mean, I've certainly watched the abomination that's gone on at Columbia and Barnard and other places, and I will just tell you,
threat to national.
Is there a serious concern of him being a threat to national security? Absolutely. Absolutely. When you start looking at those massive riots like that, when you start looking at buildings getting freaking burnt down, when you talk about people that were kidnapped, people that were held against their will, yes, absolutely, because that violent rhetoric only gets worse. And there is crowds of people that are roaming around the New York streets, I think it was last week, beating the hell out of Jews. It's just not acceptable.
And I'll just tell you that
I'm not going to let you move on because this is the
I'll tell you why it's a threat to national security if you let me answer you.
Well, Scott.
Do you want me to answer you or not?
Okay.
His organization says we are dedicated fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization.
Okay.
He's not a citizen. He doesn't need to be here.
I don't want to. You just described him having viewpoints that you disagree with. Again, is that enough to have someone lose their rights in this country?
He has viewpoints that, in my opinion, jeopardize the security of the United States.
But how?
He is obviously a radical who is here to foment.
This is what pisses me off, right? Like, this is an intelligent man, Scott Jennings. He's an intelligent man, but he could simply lay it out just the way we just did. Like, hey, these protests that this guy is, pushing, that he is backing, that he is freaking supporting, that he is organizing. All of these protests have had people kidnapped, hurt, in some cases killed, and he is directly responsible for that. Therefore, he is a threat to national security, somebody that is like openly pushing that violent rhetoric and spreading that in this battle of human terrain is absolutely a threat to national security. And he's doing it with misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. That is very cut and dry, very plain and simple. He's got no right to be here in the United States of America if he's breaking the law. He can get the hell out.
He's not a radical at all.
Violence against the United States government.
He wants to destroy Western civilization.
Against the United States government.
You're saying eradicate Western civilization doesn't make you a radical?
Has he acted in any way that is violence against the United States government, as you just said?
I think these protests and the violence they have fomented and the intimidation and fear against the Jewish kids on these campuses is absolutely an act of insurrection against the United States.
I don't think.
And again, that's where she's getting it wrong. And I wish people would like listen and speak up to where, hey, has he acted against the United States government? Good freaking question. And until we like arrest this dude and really start digging in, then we'll know. But those college campuses and stuff like that, and some of the protests that are taking place inside of Washington, D.C., it's the same rhetoric that he's pushing that's allowing for that to happen. And so, yes, in my opinion, he has. Have federal law enforcement officers been hurt by those protesters? Yes. Are they members of the United States government? Yes. Can we get after them? Absolutely. And they need to go.
Free American speech, Scott. That's enough.
Look, what they have engaged in is a clear threat to the United States. And if you want the United States to be overrun by radicals the way Europe has, be my guest. But I think the president needs to stand up for the integrity of the United States.
What is the threat?
The threat of our country being, and our college campuses being overrun by radicals who are trying to run Jewish kids off of campuses and anybody else who disagree. Yes, they are. In UCLA.
No,
at UCLA.
First of all,
they wouldn't even let them go to class.
First of all, they were
Columbia's an abomination.
First of all, there were violent counter protests at UCLA that were done by Jewish organizations.
No, both sides did.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Violent counter protests. You mean to tell me that people were defending themselves against people that were breaking the law and kidnapping and doing all those things because the government failed to act? Yeah. Good. That's a good thing. That's your right as an American. That's why we have the Second Amendment. And this is what pisses me off when all we needed. And by the way, I listened to about 30 seconds of this clip and I was like, I'm going to review it. I haven't listened to this whole thing yet. But these are the things that need thrown out there and into people's faces. Right? CNN is pushing propaganda and they're pushing a narrative. They're clearly like bullied up against this guy. And it's bullshit. Everything they're spitting is complete and total BS.
Anti-Semitism is a scourge on this country. Do not
it absolutely
is that it is not clear that this particular student has engaged in the specific actions that he was talking about. And you've shown me no evidence of that either.
Okay, well, guess what? He is not a citizen. If he were a citizen, I might feel differently. He's a guest in this country.
Okay.
It's my view.
And so whether or not she's seen it doesn't make it true. And this is where I'd stop, again, the argument. Listen, just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not real. I've never seen $1 billion. I've never seen $1 trillion, but I know it exists. I currently can't see the sky, and I can't present information to her immediately that the sky is blue other than common sense. All right. All of these things ended up getting signed off on by a judge to make sure that all of that crap happens. It's garbage. It is a stupid argument when people use that and say, you haven't proven to me. Okay, well, it's not my fault you can't use Google. It's not my fault you are too lazy to actually do your own due diligence and research on these subjects. Just because you don't have the knowledge doesn't mean it's not true. I can't explain quantum physics to her. I can't explain Einstein's theory of relativity to her in an intelligent way, but they're things that the scientific community accept and they're moving towards in order to prove more. So just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not true. And it's absolutely appalling that CNN uses that type of crap.
In other words,
it's the Trump
you don't
administration.
have proof, but it doesn't matter.
No, I didn't walk in here with my gumshoe investigative case, Abby. But here's what I do think. This guy's running an organization at Columbia that has ruined 2 solid years of people's lives.
Deported based on allegations that you have not substantiated.
I think he should be deported based on what the Trump administration has already identified. He is a threat to the national security.
Based on his affiliation.
The statute you quoted, it's an obscure statute, old statute that's being used, is about being against U.S. foreign policy, right? So, for example, when I was part of protests in Miami, when the Clinton administration and Janet Reno returned Elian Gonzalez to Cuba.
Who cares? Who cares about Elian Gonzalez? That has absolutely nothing to do with violent, radical extremists here in the United States of America.
Is that...
Were you trying to eradicate Western civilization?
No, I was trying to stop the U.S. government, and I was protesting against what the U.S. government had done.
Were you occupying buildings?
I was protesting.
Were you fomenting violence?
I was doing what that...
Were you inciting others to engage in violence?
I was doing what that statute said.
Were you chasing
I was
people
against
around?
U.S. foreign policy.
Were you intimidating people?
Okay,
we were shutting down streets.
My view is that we're in a fight for the future of Western civilization. This guy's on the wrong side of it, and he don't need to be here.
And if the court...
Period. That is one of the most accurate statements he made that entire time. And I wish more people would have the cojones. I wish CNN would have the balls to grab guys like me. I got a suit and tie. I'll throw it on for you, CNN. Bring me on. I dare you. People don't want that. They don't want to be embarrassed in front of a national audience. And that's why when it does in fact happen, that those clips go freaking huge when people like that get shut down. There is far more intelligent people than me on this subject, and they need to start bringing actual intelligent individuals on there and put out actual facts and truth. But what they are doing and what they have been doing, same thing inside of Ukraine, same thing inside of Israel, is they've been pushing partisan politics. And now that Trump's supporting a certain thing, well, God, it's got to be evil. And so now we've got to stand up on that side to the point where these people don't give a crap that their lives, their children's lives, that lives of other innocent individuals inside of this country are actually at risk, and they're pushing it. It's absolutely freaking nuts. Absolutely insane. Ladies and gentlemen, I will do a Discord tomorrow morning. I do not have the time to do it. I just got in late last night around 21:30, 9:30 p.m., 9:45 p.m. is when I got back to my house. It's just, I'm a little bit chaotic right now after taking 4 days off. So I need to get some of my life things in order. And as soon as that stuff's in order, we'll have that back up. Maybe I'll do a Discord tonight. I'm going to try to start pushing those live sessions a little bit earlier in the evening time. I don't know. But we're going to get this settled. We're going to get it like rolled back in. If you guys are first over here to the channel, please like and subscribe. Push this video, share this. Again, all I want to do is I want to build a freaking generation of actual critical thinkers that are tired of MSM garbage like this that's currently up on your screen that has no sustenance to it whatsoever. None. So if that interests you, if you're okay with being a little bit upset at some of the things that I'm going to say in order to get accurate information, if you're okay having your feelings hurt and listening to other perspectives and other points of view, well, you're in the right place, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, peace, love, happiness, and God bless. Thank you guys for all of the support, love that you've put this way, and a special thank you